it was kind of interesting because I'm at a bus stop one day. So this kid comes up and goes, "Hey, your mom's a sex toy lady." I'm like, "My mom's a what?" And he was like, "Yeah, your mom's a sex toy lady. She was on Bill Cunningham last night. My dad and I were listening to it on the way home." I'm like, he was an older kid. He was like 17 or 18, and I was in, I was probably in 5th or 6th grade at the time, 6th grade, 7th grade, I don't know. And he goes, "Oh yeah, your mom's a sex toy lady." I remember that I ended up tackling him and putting him on the ground, and the bus pulled up, and the bus driver pulls us off, and he puts him in the one front seat, puts me in the other front seat, and they drive us into the principal's office. So my mom, came and was like, "What are you getting in fights for at school? What's going on?" And I'm like, "I'm not talking to you." And she's like, "What?" She goes, I go, "Mom, they called you the sex toy lady. And are you really selling sex toys?" And my mom stopped, pulled the car over and said, "Let me tell you what I'm doing. Do you know how your dad and I did not stay together?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "I'm out helping women every day keep their relationships so their mommies and daddies stay together. And if those boys ever come and they harass you or say something again about what we do or what I do, then here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and tell them that you'll bring their parents' invoice to school and hang up on the bulletin board, and everybody in the school can see what their parents bought for me." I wanted to get out of Cincinnati. Like, my thing was, as soon as I was able to go to college, I thought I was never coming back here. I was going to be a gym teacher. That's what I thought I was going to be, a gym teacher, coach, and that was kind of the direction that I was heading in my life. I went up and I went to school at Mount Union College, played football up there, won 2 national titles in '96 and '97, and I started my career right after that in 1998 and went to work for a company called the Maxim Group. At the time, my father was the COO of that company. I had no idea that I was going to do that because up until that time, I really didn't have much of a relationship with my father. I knew he was a businessman. I saw him, maybe once or twice a year. Well, as I took that job opportunity and kind of internship with him in 1997, I saw this whole new world. I saw that, I saw people who were traveling around, flying around on private jets, wearing nice suits, dining really nice. So all these things I started seeing. So in 1997, I came back for my senior year in college, and I said, "You know what? I need to figure out if I'm going to stay in the teaching or if I'm going to go into business." So at that time, I said, "I don't think I'm going to go into the teaching. I don't think the teaching and coaching is going to be the right profession because I want to go out and make real money." Not that that's a knock on teachers or anything else. I just saw a different lifestyle, something I was never accustomed to. So I ended up in 1998 going to work. He gave me a shot to work down in the merchandising department for the company called the Maxim Group. I moved up pretty rapidly with the company. I went from the merchandising department to, they said, "Hey, we have an opportunity that was in Chicago to go and run 28 stores for them." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I've never ran a store before." I worked summers at a Color Tile just to pay for my summer fun money when I was a kid. And the day I walk in, the day that the district manager quits, and the day that they reassign the regional vice president. So immediately I go in from just learning from everybody then to end up running the whole division with another guy that was up there that worked with my father, which was Wade Triska. And I remember they sat me down and said, "So how are you going to turn this market around that's losing money, and how are you going to start making money?" I'm like, I have no idea. They handed me this paper. And it said sales, it said gross cost of goods, gross profit, payroll, marketing, advertising, labor, all these things were on there. And I said, "What is this?" They go, "You've never seen a P&L before?" I'm like, "A P and what?" And they're like, "A P&L. And they said, "A profit loss sheet." I'm like, "I've never seen that before." So that was my first kind of initial kind of welcoming to like the world of now I am held to a number. And I got in there and took over the $28 million region, worked it pretty well. We ended up becoming from losing money to start making money, which was, pretty cool thing in 6 months. They called me, corporate called me and said, "Hey, listen, you're doing such a great job in the field. We're starting a new division. And the new division of the company is going to be called everythingdecor.com. Everything's going online, Chris. Everything's going to be, we're going to go out, we got to get in that space. It's the .com world right now in 1998, 1999. Everybody wanted to get in the .coms, but nobody really knew how to do it. So everybody was shifting and saying, most of my business was on retail shelves and all this other stuff or in showrooms. So I would call presidents or CEOs of Hinderdon, furniture. I'd call different wallpaper or Sherwin-Williams. I got meetings with presidents of large Fortune, 500 companies. I got large meetings with, big, huge furniture companies, just for the simple fact that there was a new outlet for them to show their products. So I got a real education on how to sell at a high level. I got an education on how to interact with these CEOs when I was 24 years of age. At the same time, I get a phone call from my mom, and my mom's like, "Look, Chris, I think I got something here." And I said, "What do you have?" And she goes, I think I have an opportunity. I said, "Mom, I know about your business, and look, I got a great career going on right now, but to sell sex toys is just not what I want to do." And she's like, "I have this." She showed me her P&L, which at the time then I knew how to read them. I sat down and looked at the P&L. I said, "Oh my gosh, Mom, you're doing great." She had taken what was in the basement of our house and taken this business, and at the time, which I thought was just a play business, and made it into $1 million organization. And I remember looking at this and going, "Wow, this is really cool." And I said, "But how can I help?" She goes, "Well, you understand marketing. I can sell the product. I understand how the product works. I understand why women want to buy it. But I need somebody that can take this business out of just Cincinnati and Detroit." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" She goes, "Well, what I really want to do is I want to give this opportunity to all women. Women that want to get their kids on the bus in the morning, get the kids off the bus at night, cook, clean, do homework with them, still go out to make full-time money working part-time hours." And I said, "Oh my God, that's a big undertaking." And she goes, "What about working back in Cincinnati?" I said, "Mom," "I'm making $100,000 a year." I said, "You barely make $100,000 a year. I mean, how are you going to pay me?" She goes, "I'll give you equity." I said, "Equity? There's 10% of zero." And she's like, "Look, why don't you come back and we can do this together?" And so from that time, so August 21st, 2000, I moved back to Cincinnati, and that was our first time that I said, "Okay, let's do this."
Had you ever thought about going into business with her before then, or?
Did I ever think about going to business with my mom? No.
So you never would have thought?
No. I mean, come on. It was I thought if I sold sex toys, I'd never get another job anywhere. But it's so unfair, because that was in 1997, 98. She just knew ahead of the game. She was ahead of the curve of everybody else. Like, she saw the whole thing coming. I was on the other side naive, but once I what I call drank the juice too, I knew that she was onto something of this huge movement. And then you see, like, now you're thinking about like Sex in the City, you see 50 Shades of Grey, you see all these things that are happening now. I mean, Brookstone carrying, vibrators inside now. I mean, so, to think about how, what this industry is now become, and she is the number one, Pure Romance is the number one relationship enhancement company in the United States. There's nobody bigger than us.